It's another Q&A edition of Optimal Health Daily, episode 2052, and I'm Dr. Neal, your host of the show. Welcome back to another special Friday edition of Optimal Health Daily, where I answer your questions. On the other days, I read health and fitness blogs to you, kind of like an ongoing audiobook, and always with a bit of my commentary at the end. Now, if you want to know more about me and my background and my credentials and why I call myself Dr. Neal most of the time, check out the first Q&A episode from earlier this month. But for now, I'm going to spare you from all of that so we can get right to today's question and start optimizing your life.
Hi, Dr. Neal. My name is Johnny, and let me first say that I love your podcast, and I love how I can trust your responses and insights during the Friday Q&A sessions. I have a follow-up question regarding one of your older episodes 635, when you talked about the safety of artificial sweeteners. You mainly talked about sugar alcohols, such as erythritol, but when I looked at the ingredients list of some common diet sodas and sugar-free gums, I found that they contain many other artificial sweeteners, such as stevia, aspartame, and sucralose. I was wondering if consuming these common non-sugar alcohol artificial sweeteners have any known harmful side effects. Thank you.
Hi, Johnny. Thank you for your question, and thank you so much for your kind words. I am so glad you appreciate the Friday Q&A episodes. Between you and me, it's my favorite time of the week, too. Now, you're right. I have talked about the health effects of sugar alcohols in the past. I may have even talked about aspartame, stevia, and sucralose in the past, but even if I had, the science changes so fast sometimes, it's worth revisiting. Now, when I was a health educator for a weight loss program, we would always tell our patients that if they wanted to satisfy their sweet craving, diet soda and other foods with so-called alternative sweeteners were a good option. This was especially true for those with diabetes. So why would we recommend the consumption of artificial sweeteners? Well, it was because these foods typically had no or very few calories and no real sugar. This means that we were allowing them to consume as many sodas and sugar-free hard candies as they would like, and yet it would satisfy their sweet craving, but they wouldn't have to worry about getting off track with their weight loss or blood sugar goals. Now, we would warn them about the potential laxative effects of sugar alcohols, but other than that, these foods were considered quote-unquote free foods, which means they were free to consume as much as they wanted. But was that really the best advice? Now, there are so many alternative sweeteners available at the local market right now, it's hard to keep track. While some of them have been sold commercially for decades, others are rookies and are newer to the game. What we're learning is not all of these sugar substitutes are created equal. Get it? Because equal is one type of sugar substitute. Okay, I'll stop. But let's actually talk about equal as a sugar substitute, along with Splenda and stevia. And I'll start with stevia first. Stevia is sometimes, but not often, called Rebiana. This sweetener comes in different forms like Truvia, Purevia, and Sweetleaf. Now, each is a little different in their chemical compositions. Stevia itself comes from the leaves of the Yerba dulce plant. For now, it's generally recognized as safe to consume. This means that at this time, there's not enough evidence to show that stevia consumption may harm us. But I should mention that there are some studies that have shown stevia may lead to genetic mutations. But these studies were performed in a lab and not with actual living, breathing human beings. So even though stevia is recognized as safe to consume at this time, stay tuned for more research. Now, what about Equal? Equal is also known as NutraSweet. Now, both of these products, NutraSweet and Equal, are made of aspartame. You'll find Equal or NutraSweet fairly commonly in diet sodas. The Harvard School of Public Health found an association between diet soda consumption and cancer in men, meaning as men consumed more diet soda that contained Equal or NutraSweet, their risk of cancer also went up. They believe this is due to the fact that our bodies convert aspartame to something called formaldehyde. Formaldehyde may sound familiar. This is what coroners use to preserve human bodies after they have passed on. Turns out, formaldehyde is also a known carcinogen or cancer-causing agent. So at this time, it's probably best to limit your consumption of Equal and NutraSweet. I know you didn't ask about this ingredient specifically, but since, in my experience, many people confuse Equal and NutraSweet with Sweet and Low, I felt like I should mention this one as well. Sweet and Low is often used because it's 350 times sweeter than sugar, so a little goes a long way. Different scientific sources have found that there's an increased risk for cancer with consumption of Sweet and Low. Moving on to Splenda, which is also known as sucralose. Now, this one's relatively new to the market, and some health agencies feel that we should consume this with caution. So we may not need to avoid it completely, but there are some concerns about long-term consumption. Splenda, or sucralose, is made by reacting sucrose, which is a type of sugar, with chlorine. There are some concerns that sucralose alters our microbiome, or the health and variety of the good bacteria in our gut. And we know that once the microbiome is involved, the health effects could range greatly, from altering the regulation of body weight to the incidence of inflammatory bowel disease like Crohn's disease or ulcerative colitis, and the absorption and metabolism of foods and nutrients by the body. So it's advised that folks shouldn't get more than 5 milligrams of Splenda or sucralose per kilogram of body weight. So a 150-pound person who weighs 68 kilograms shouldn't consume more than 340 milligrams of Splenda per day. Each individual packet of Splenda contains about 12 milligrams of sucralose. So the bottom line is, the only sugar substitutes that would be considered safe to use on a regular basis at this point are sugar alcohols and possibly stevia. Now, while the others don't need to be avoided completely except for sweet and low, it would be wise to limit your consumption. And going back to my story at the beginning, given this information, telling my patients to substitute diet soda for regular soda anytime in any quantities they wished may have been a bit short-sighted. Now, I should mention something about natural sugars found in foods. Natural sugars found in foods likely don't pose the same health risks, but the key here is to consume minimally processed foods. Think about fruit, for example. Fruits can be high in sugar, but they also contain fiber, which has two effects on the body. One, it slows down the body's absorption of those sugars, and two, the fiber acts as a prebiotic in that it can help our gut grow more helpful bacteria and promote a healthy microbiome. When foods are processed, they are often stripped of their fiber content, and the result is a food that is no longer as nutritious. It ends up becoming a source of sugar and not much else. So when foods are processed, they are often stripped of their fiber content, and the result is a food that is no longer as nutritious. It ends up becoming a source of sugar and not much else. We all have someone who has genuinely impacted our lives for the better. And if you're a business owner, you need to hire the same type of person for your company. Now it's easy to find that perfect employee, thanks to Indeed. Indeed is the hiring platform helping over 3 million businesses worldwide to do it all. Don't spend hours on multiple job sites looking for candidates. Over 80% of Indeed employers find quality candidates the moment they sponsor a job. I especially love Indeed's Instant Match feature because candidates you invite to apply through Instant Match are 3 times more likely to apply to your job than candidates who only see it in search, according to US Indeed data. Indeed knows that finding people with the right skills makes all the difference when you're a hiring team of one. Visit Indeed.com/health to start hiring now. Just go to Indeed.com/health. Indeed.com/health. Terms and conditions apply. Cost per application pricing not available for everyone. Need to hire? You need Indeed. And thank you again so much for the question, Johnny. We're actually now giving away a copy of our hardcover Optimal Living Daily Workbook if you're in the US and send in a relevant question. You can email your question to health@oldpodcast.com, or you can also call in your question. The number is country code 161 I love OHD. That's 1-614-568-3643. Or you can submit your audio question at oldpodcast.com/ask. There, it's really easy. You can even do retakes before sending it in. And again, that's oldpodcast.com/ask. All right, that's another Q&A edition of Optimal Health Daily. Thank you so much for listening every day and listening all the way through. And I'll see you back here over the weekend where your optimal life awaits.